Okay, we are live now. And welcome, Ajay, to Holistic Conversations. And I'm really happy that you are with us today. And I'm also really very happy and excited and a little bit nervous that we are I am going to have a new experience of uh, reading book and in a way of uh, what do I say? I'm getting lost. हम लोग बुक रीड करेंगे थोड़ा-सा और बुक के बारे में जानेंगे। मुझे ये नाम ही इतना अच्छा लग रहा है थ्राइव और मैं ज़रूर कुछ बोलना चाहूँगी सॉरी टू इंटरप्ट मैं ज़रूर ये भी शो करना चाहूँगी, देखो अजय ने क्या लिखा है मेरे लिए, जस्ट बी एंड थ्राइव। मैं ये पढ़कर ही बहुत खुश हो गई, जस्ट बी ये आई कैन जस्ट बी। बट उस बी के बारे में बहुत सारा कुछ है इस बुक में जो मैंने पढ़ा। मैंने 2 दिन पढ़ा अजय, टोटली।
I'm glad. So, thanks for inviting me, and happy to do this podcast about the book. And I'm glad आपने पढ़ा है किताब, so we can have some questions and we can have some book reading. और अभी book internationally भी available है, so I know you are based in the US, so it's available on Amazon.com all across the world. So किसको खरीदनी है तो खरीद सकते हैं. So I think this is a good time to do this podcast. So I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I had few of my loved ones who had suggested me like क्योंकि मैं हमेशा बोलती हूँ कि I don't have script and I don't know how the episode is going to turn out. So उनका ये बोलना था कि तुम ऐसा बोलो कि you are waiting for life to unfold in its own way and you are participating in it with your presence and consciousness and awareness. So I would like to be here today with that thought. And let's see how this episode is unfolding. And yeah, अजय पहले हम सुनेंगे आपके बारे में थोड़ा सा फिर हम बुक में जाएंगे so
अब मैं ना अपने बारे में बोल बोल के थोड़ा सा बोर हो गया क्योंकि पहले तो मैंने अपनी लाइफ की स्टोरी फर्स्ट चैप्टर में ही लिख दी है अबाउट 4000 वर्ड्स में, सो इट्स ऑल इन ब्लैक एंड वाइट. नेवरदलेस अपने बारे में अगर मैं कुछ बताऊं तो कहाँ से शुरू करूं?
मैं कुछ बोलूं?
हाँ हाँ बिल्कुल.
अभी जो तुम्हारा एक्सपीरियंस तुमने फेसबुक में शेयर किया था ना, यू वेंट फॉर अ रिट्रीट राइट बियॉन्ड एडिक्शन.
या
वहां पे क्या हुआ? वहां से शुरू करते हैं. वो बुक में नहीं है.
वो बुक में नहीं. Wouldn't it be a little out of context for the listeners? क्योंकि उन्हें background.
Because we'll come back to the book.
Okay, ठीक है. So it was a beautiful experience. 9 days in Amritsar. There was a retreat called Beyond Addiction, which was done and facilitated by Sadharam Kaur. She is the co-director of Compassionate Inquiry, which is a psychotherapy program, 1-year psychotherapy training program, which is now quite popular across the world. तो वो मैं ट्रेनिंग कर रहा हूँ. My work is as a therapist. तो compassionate inquiry के बारे में तो जितना बोलूँ मैं कम ही है. It's like an eye transplant, and I think that's also where we met, you and I.
That's right.
Because we're doing that program. So it's almost like it gives you a new way of looking at yourself and looking at others. So I went for this program because something about Sadharam is, I think I find it very extraordinary. Her presence, her composure. So so that drew me to the program, and then it was very life changing for me in many ways, because काफ़ी शिफ्ट्स हुए इन एक तो गोल्डन टेम्पल उसकी वाइब्रेशंस वहाँ की, फिर देयर वाज अ लॉट ऑफ प्रैक्टिस ऑफ दे प्रैक्टिस कुंडलिनी योगा विच इज़ एसेंशली working with the energy of the body, and also it's extremely devotional. तो बहुत ही it's like I'm a very emotional person, so for me any yoga which is devotion based is very attractive for me, क्योंकि otherwise yoga is very physical, बस हाथ पैर हिलाना है. तो वो और फिर सदरम का प्रेजेंस, and then we had some pilgrimage after that retreat. So all in all it was really life changing. और उससे पहले मैं I was really struggling कि मुझे मैंने काफ़ी कुछ किया है, किताब भी लिख दी है, बट मुझे करना क्या है, what is the direction that I want to go. So one of the directions that I really got was I want to teach this program बियॉन्ड एडिक्शन, वो जो एक्चुअली वो वर्ड बियॉन्ड एडिक्शन है, बट एक्चुअली वो प्रोग्राम इज सो मच मोर. इट्स अबाउट डिस्कवरिंग योर सेल्फ, finding your authentic expression. It's about connecting to the consciousness that we are. So wo program mujhe, I want to be teaching that. So one of my goals in the coming year is to prepare and make myself eligible for that program. So it's given me a sense of direction, it's given me a sense of inspiration, it's given me a sense of spiritual practice, spiritual path, a spiritual community. So it was lovely, I think. Yeah.
Wow, that's really good to know, and all the best for that, for your
Thank
uh, yeah, decision and your direction that you found in that
you.
retreat. Um, yeah, I would also like to say that हम लोग compassionate inquiry के through मिले हैं. I would also like to thank Mansi for that, because she introduced me to the Indian community, and there we get to know each other. So yeah, I'm really happy that it turned out really well, and आज हम लोग finally I am with your book, and we are going to do something about the book today. So should we start with reading something from the book? How do you suggest?
Uh, Anything is fine, but maybe I think it's good if I give some context to the readers about
Yes.
myself and how the book got created. Um,
Yeah.
So, coming back to an introduction about me, I've had a difficult childhood. I think, let me put it that way. Um, I didn't get the upbringing of my parents. I was brought up by my grandparents. I was sent to boarding school at age 5. And the result of all of that, the turmoil around my upbringing, coming from a broken home, not having any conscious caregiver, led to a lot of inner turmoil for me, which as a child I could not figure out for myself. What's the turmoil? But basically, I lost touch with my ability to uh, figure out what is good for me. Let's just put it simply. So, as a result of that, I made wrong career choices. I took up accountancy, became a chartered accountant. In fact, today I was registering for another course, and I was going back through all my mark sheets from school to college, and I said, "बाप रे क्या क्या पढ़ा है मैंने, जिस चीज में मेरा बिल्कुल इंटरेस्ट ही नहीं है." और फिर yeah, so that happened, and then job happened, and basically I wasn't really fulfilled about my life. And then there's one thing which has always been very intriguing for me, which is spirituality and personal growth. उस चीज में मेरा बहुत ही intense interest रहा है. तो अराउंड सर्टेन टाइम ये दो पैरेलल लाइफ शुरू हो गई, जहाँ में एक कॉर्पोरेट लाइफ था, एक था स्पिरिचुअल सीकिंग लाइफ. So all this happened together. To cut a long story short, it took me a long time to really integrate my life in terms of what I really love to do, which is around the practice of yoga now and the practice of mindfulness, which is around psychotherapy, um, which is what I'm doing now. And in the process of my journey, I also discovered certain addictive patterns of behavior that I had, which I didn't realize were addictions. मुझे तो लगा सब लोग ही करते हैं, तो इसमें कौन सी बड़ी बात है. So when I realized that, I was also in a very state of deep depression, not knowing what to do. But वो बोलते हैं ना, it is darkest before dawn. So उस समय में I got engaged with the yoga community, और उस समय में मेरी फिर life change होने लग गई, क्योंकि I think for the first time I was in an environment which I found really supportive, which I found where I could express my gifts. तो वहाँ पर मैंने फिर 5 साल जो मैं था, उस समय में मैंने बहुत डिसिप्लिन किया अपने आप को, मेरी हैबिट्स चेंज करी. And I really realized कि yoga is not just moving the body, but it's really a whole science of living, of how you can live a better life, a more holistic life. So ये किताब जो मैंने लिखी है, ये जो किताब है, ये वो 5 सालों के बारे में है कि उसमें मैंने क्या डिस्कवर किया, from really being in a state of deep depression to thriving, because that's what the book is about. कि मैंने क्या tools apply किए, मैंने क्या principles apply किए, मैंने योगा से क्या सीखा, और फिर that's what's converted into this particular book. और मुझे लगता है कि अगर ये यूनिवर्सल प्रिंसिपल्स हैं, सो आई टॉक अबाउट 7 प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ वेलबींग. मुझे लगता है अगर कोई भी ये अप्लाई करे अपनी लाइफ में, किसी भी विच एवर वे, इट्स नॉट नेसेसरली दैट दे हैव टू डू इट इन द वे आई हैव सेड इट, बट principle is a principle, like a principle of healthy living. So if somebody applies those principles, then I'm certain that life will move in a direction which is healthy, wholesome, harmonious, क्योंकि हर कोई आखिर में यही चाहता है. None of us is very different. So that's a little introduction about me, and also a little introduction about the book.
Yeah, good to know. Also, I would like to say that the 7 principles, he has made those 7 principles very with a very common word, which is present, right? If I'm
Yeah,
right,
yeah, correct.
Present,
Yeah,
present.
yeah,
So that was also really very what do you say? Um we always struggle to be present, you know, like जैसे अभी just एक second पहले I was like somewhere, you know, like, so that's how it happens. Like we are here and now, and then we are not here. We are somewhere else. So we are present every somewhere or the other, but
yeah.
we need to know where we want to be present. You know, like we have that free will to make a choice where we want to be present. So जो ये जो एक्रोनिम है present का, जहाँ पे you have uh, poured your life experiences, I would say like that, and made a different sense of the word.
Yeah.
तो तुम्हारे लिए ये कैसे relate करता है, you know, with your personal experience. And this is a book with which I think everybody can relate to. It's not a very extraordinary experience. It's like small things that we miss on, small things that we miss on, and uh, from our childhood until whatever age we are now today, if anybody reads this book, you know, they will at least think about it कि कहीं ना कहीं से तो हम कुछ कर ही सकते हैं. You know, we can start from somewhere, somehow, and
Yeah.
that is the turning point.
Yeah.
That is the shift. So वो मुझे पढ़ के बहुत अच्छा लगा, and it was also nice to know that he found it with this present word. जो हम बहुत टेकन फॉर ग्रांटेड लेके हम हाँ, हाँ, आई एम प्रेज़ेंट, येस आई एम देयर, आई एम लिसनिंग, येस यू नो दैट काइंड ऑफ थिंग मतलब हम लोग उसको ऑथेंटिकली वो हम उसको इतना वैल्यू नहीं देते, दैट प्रेज़ेंट को। बट you showed your authenticity with that word actually.
So yeah, I think end goal of all spiritual practice is to be present, which means to be. I give a simple definition for present is to be where your body is, because your body is here, our mind is either in the past, either in the future. We are constantly lost in thoughts. और ये जो हम बोलते हैं ना, आई एम थिंकिंग और आई एम चूजिंग, आई एम डिसाइडिंग, ये एक तरीके का मिथ है, क्योंकि if you are thinking, then you should be able to stop your thinking. Like अगर तुम बोलते हो I'm driving the car, then I can say you're driving the car if you have the capacity to stop the car. But if you can't stop the car, then you're not driving the car.
That's right.
So supposing if you're saying I'm thinking, then if you're thinking, then you should be able to stop your thinking. No, that then you can say I'm thinking because I can stop thinking when I want to. But then
That's
if
true.
that's not in our control, then the thoughts are happening on their own.
Yeah.
It's like a non-stop radio. So a lot of most people miss this, and most people believe I'm making choices, but the choices are very unconscious and reactive. So the essence of, I think, thriving is how you can bring your attention into now, into wherever we are. And ये जो 7 principles के बारे में जो मैं बात करता हूँ किताब पे, which is I've used the acronym of present, purpose, P से purpose, R से recharge. So P is about having a purposeful life, R recharge is about living a healthy life, E, eliminate, is about ending addictive behavior. S is about serve, uh, doing something selflessly. Express is about how to deal with emotions intelligently. And nourish is about how we can nourish ourselves mentally, emotionally. And T, transcend, which is how to practice meditation and mindfulness. So those are the 7 principles, and then that's how the book is also structured in terms of 7 different chapters. Um, so all when we practice all these principles and implement these principles through tools and practices in our life, then our mind comes into the present moment. Because these principles are almost like, I think, universal principles. If we apply these principles in our life, through our own effort and through the grace of God, one may say, then we are in alignment with un, the I'm using a big word, the cosmic or the universal unfoldment. जैसे unfoldment होता है, जैसे रात को सनसेट होता है, सवेरे सनराइज होता है, सीजन्स होते हैं, समर होता है, ये पूरा एक नेचुरल अनफोल्डमेंट है. तो हम भी उसके एक हिस्सा हैं, which has to unfold naturally with the whole universal unfoldment. But क्योंकि हम we are not aligned to our truth, hence there is disturbance, there is conflict that happens, and then we are not in the present moment, and then we lose our presence, so to speak. So that's what Thrive talks about, how we can apply these 7 principles to bring our mind into the present moment and be present, because we are truly happy only when we are in the here and now.
Yeah, that's true. और आई मस्ट से कि ये बुक पढ़ने के बाद मुझे लगा कि हाउ मच हार्ड वर्क यू हैव डन ऑन योरसेल्फ, हाउ मच वर्क यू हैव done on yourself consciously. I mean with all awareness, you know, like white board लाना, उसमें लिखना, उसमें check mark करना, like I should say, like, thank you for writing those things in the book, you know, because somewhere when we read the philosophy and we read your experience, what is the next step? How do I implement? The whiteboard is a very great example that once you have done with reading your book, you go to your whiteboard, right? So that you know that you have some things to work on, you can write it down. I mean, if you are taking that responsibility or if you are going towards that path, you know. So you have given end to end, like without any uh, so that if a person is reading, they know like okay, मैंने ये पढ़ लिया, अभी मुझे व्हाइट बोर्ड लेके आना है, उसमें लिखना है, कोई एक काम तो मुझे शुरू करना है जिसमें कि मैं एवरीडे उसे चेक मार्क कर सकूं. दैट वाज सो फुलफिलिंग, यू नो, कि हाँ मैंने एक काम किया.
Hmm.
That was really nice and that gives a sense of responsibility also. जैसे तुमने लिखा कि I am accountable, I am responsible, and I am doing it.
Yeah. So I think whiteboard, of course, was a tool that I used for that, creating external accountability by writing. So just to give a context to whoever is listening to this, is when I made that decision to transform myself, then I brought a whiteboard, and whatever I wrote on the whiteboard, then I would make sure I would do. And I had these three vows that I had taken during that time, which is I will not postpone anything. Whatever I do, I'll do 100%. And the third was whatever I start, I will complete. So, ye mein religiously I implemented these three vows, and whatever I would write on the whiteboard, I would make sure it got done. सो जरूरी नहीं है कि हर किसी को व्हाइट बोर्ड, अब मैं व्हाइट बोर्ड यूज नहीं करता, मैं अपने मोबाइल फोन पे ही बस टू डू लिस्ट बना लेता हूँ. बट आई थिंक
To start with.
द एसेंस क्या है कि लाइफ में ना पर्पस होना बहुत जरूरी है. अगर आपके पास कोई पर्पस नहीं है या कोई इंस्पिरेशन नहीं है, तो फिर आपका दिमाग पागलों की तरह फिर यहाँ वहां भटकेगा. क्योंकि दिमाग का नेचर ये है कि वो कहीं ना कहीं अटैच होना चाहता है किसी ना किसी चीज को. द माइंड वांट्स टू कनेक्ट टू समथिंग. So if it doesn't find something healthy to connect to, it will connect to something unhealthy, but it will connect. So which is why I think मेरी life में because I was so disconnected from my own self, the choices that I made of becoming a chartered accountant or whatever else was what they never gave me any joy, never gave me any fulfillment. तो इसके लिए फिर then you go into addictive behavior, then you go into all kind of escapism, because you are not getting joy from a purpose, you are not getting inspiration from what you do. So that I think is very, very important, to find what is my purpose, what is, where does my inspiration lie, and align your life along with your purpose and inspiration. अब मेरी लाइफ में ऐसा है कि there is no such concept of work, there is no such concept of holiday, क्योंकि I love what I do. It's good that people pay me for what I do, but मुझे तो मजा आता है जो मैं करता हूँ. I love offering therapy because it comes so naturally to me. That's my natural expression. So that's so important, because just like food gives nourishment to the physical body, your work should nourish you emotionally.
Wow.
Then you will not rely on other things to fill you, the emptiness that we have inside. So, so hence I think the whiteboard is like a metaphor for finding purpose in life and moving in the direction of your purpose.
या ब्यूटीफुल. मुझे तो वो पढ़ के बहुत अच्छा लगा क्योंकि हम लोग कभी-कभी इट्स नॉट अ कंसिस्टेंट थिंग, यू नो, इफ यू हैव टू मेनी थिंग्स मे बी तुमने पेपर में लिख दिया या फ़ोन में लिख दिया एंड द नेक्स्ट डे इफ यू डोंट हैव एनीथिंग मे बी यू मिस ऑन एवरीथिंग दैट यू आर डूइंग. सो so that intent, that intensity or I think that is also attachment, right? Like मुझे कुछ करना है, I want to work on myself. व्हाइट बोर्ड लाना, लिखना, व्हाइट बोर्ड छोड़ दो, वो सोचना कि मुझे लिखना है, पर्पस ढूँढना है, that is also like that
Yeah,
itself is
but
a starting of purpose, right?
yeah,
Leading you to the
it's a
purpose.
good it's a good attachment. No, it's a
Yeah,
good healthy attachment when you're attached to purpose. That's healthy attachment. When you're attached to a spiritual path which resonates with you, that's a healthy attachment. When you're attached to a community which nourishes you, that's a healthy attachment. When you're in a relationship which enriches you, then that's a healthy. So अभी हम हैं तो अटैचमेंट तो होगा ही, क्योंकि चाहे वो काम हो, चाहे वो रिलेशनशिप हो, चाहे वो कम्युनिटी हो, चाहे वो आ कनेक्शन विद द डिवाइन हो, कहीं ना अटैचमेंट तो होगा. सो अगर हेल्दी अटैचमेंट में नहीं, इफ यू आर नॉट, इफ यू डोंट हैव द ग्रेस ऑफ फाइंडिंग हेल्दी अटैचमेंट, देन यू विल नेचुरली मूव टुवर्ड्स अनहेल्दी अटैचमेंट, क्योंकि कुछ ना कुछ तो चाहिए जीने के लिए.
that's true.
अगर तुम्हें फिल्टर वाटर नहीं मिलेगा, स्पार्कलिंग वाटर नहीं मिलेगा, तो फिर तुम गंदा पानी पियोगे. पर पियोगे तो सही, चाहे तुम्हें उससे डायरिया हो जाए, व्हाटएवर, बट कुछ ना कुछ तो करोगे तुम जिंदा रहने के लिए.
That's true. That's true. Um, yeah, जैसे कि बोल रहे थे, would you like to talk about something about emptiness? क्योंकि once we feel that emptiness, we start craving for connection.
Yeah,
And you have written beautifully about that. So if it's okay for you to share something about,
sure. I can read from my book where I write about it.
yeah,
It's on chapter number principle 3, uh, which is about eliminate. So
ending
it goes
addictions.
like, yeah, ending
Yeah.
addictions. So the title of that portion is called the shadow self. Most human beings have a hole in them. It is the gaping wide emptiness we feel inside. We feel isolated, not understood, and disconnected from others. Most of our actions are trying to fill this emptiness. We do not wish to fall into this hole at any cost, so we try to distract ourselves by doing things. Some of these acts may be glorified as achievement and ambition, while others may be judged as addictions. Almost everything we do is an attempt to escape ourselves. Very few of us are comfortable with ourselves or with owning up to our nakedness as the day we were born, without credentials and possessions. To compensate for our discomfort, we have a compulsive need to embellish ourselves with success, stature, and recognition. We define ourselves by what we have and how we are seen by others. Since childhood, we are conditioned to venture into the world, achieve something, and be successful. If we do well in life, we are considered extraordinary. We are expected to stand out. There is constant pressure to be better than the rest. It determines our self-worth. Most of my childhood was marked by the pressure to come first in class, be it sports or academics. I was constantly running a race where I was competing with other children, and all of us were busy trying to outdo each other to gain recognition. The moments of getting the first rank, being rewarded with a certificate or a prize, validated my worth. So essentially, that is really how it all begins. क्योंकि um, जैसे जैसे आई थिंक इन इंडियन कम्युनिटी वी हैव द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ हॉरोस्कोप. जब भी बच्चा पैदा होता है तो उसका हॉरोस्कोप बनता है. बेस्ड ऑन द हॉरोस्कोप फिर बताते हैं कि इसकी लाइफ में क्या होने वाला है, कब होगा. सो आई थिंक जो बच्चे के जो इनिशियल ग्रोइंग ईयर्स हैं, मे बी द फर्स्ट 5-6 ईयर्स, उन जो 5-6 सालों में होता है, इन मेनी वेज वो स्क्रिप्ट सेट कर देता है फॉर द फ्यूचर लाइफ. क्योंकि जब आप बच्चे की फीलिंग्स को वैलिडेट नहीं करते हैं, जब आप उसको एक हेल्दी कनेक्शन नहीं मिलता है, उसको जब आप एक सेफ कनेक्शन नहीं प्रोवाइड कर सकते हैं, उसको जब आप प्रेडिक्टेबिलिटी ऑफ कनेक्शन नहीं प्रोवाइड कर सकते हैं, तो फिर वो बच्चा का सिस्टम, जो फ्रेजाइल नर्वस सिस्टम है, वो हिल जाता है, क्योंकि ये सडनली नाउ, I think in many ways, I think one trauma is when you are taken, when you take birth, which is the birthing trauma. Suddenly you have come from your mother's womb, which was so comfortable and nice, into this world suddenly, and that's a trauma. Or I think दूसरा trauma है when children are sent to school, क्योंकि suddenly now you are in an institution at the very young age, and now suddenly you are part of the race. You have to compete with, other children, and you have to come first in class, and you are getting marks, and your worth is based on your marks. I think this whole education is so traumatic. I don't know अब कितना education बदल गया है उस time से. I know there are different schools, alternative schools, जहाँ पर ये marking system नहीं होता है, और it is a holistic education. But otherwise, I think the whole education system is very, very traumatic. क्योंकि उसमें मैं आज, I was going through my, because I'm enrolling for a course on couples and family counseling. So उसके लिए I had to fill in all my mark sheets, जो 10th से लेके 12th से लेके, और मैं रियलाइज किया कि ये सब मैंने पढ़ा, बट इन चीजों में मेरे को बिल्कुल इंटरेस्ट नहीं था, जो भी मैंने किया, साइंस, मैथ्स, ये। और जिस चीज में मेरे को इंटरेस्ट था, मेरे होल बचपन में किसी ने भी उसमें इंटरेस्ट नहीं लिया कि व्हाट इज इट दैट आई लाइक टू डू. इट वाज ओनली अबाउट, यू आर सपोज्ड टू स्टडी दिस एंड यू हैव टू गेट गुड मार्क्स. और देन वो डर रहता है कि अरे मैं अगर, इफ आई डोंट गेट गुड मार्क्स देन क्या होगा. तो किसी ने ये नहीं पूछा तुम्हें क्या चाहिए, what do you feel, what gives you happiness, what. So in many ways you become disconnected from your natural self, you become disconnected from your natural feelings. So फिर तुम्हें पता ही नहीं कि मुझे मुझे किस चीज से जॉय मिलता है. मैं अक्सर कहता हूं कि अगर सपोजिंग, क्योंकि 80% ऑफ ह्यूमैनिटीज is employed in corporations, और मोस्टली अगर उनको बोलो कि ना अभी तुम्हारे बैंक अकाउंट में अनलिमिटेड मनी डाल देंगे, तुम कल काम पे जाओगे कि नहीं. मेरे ख्याल से 90% ऑफ पीपल विल नॉट गो टू वर्क, बिकॉज एवरीवन इज वर्किंग फॉर मनी, नॉट बिकॉज इट्स नेसेसरली गिविंग देम जॉय, इंस्पिरेशन, अ सेंस ऑफ फुलफिलमेंट, मीनिंग. It's mostly for livelihood. And the interesting thing is, it's not that the fact that 90%, most of the people will not go to work. Most of the people will also not know what to do in their life, because they have never gotten in touch with what their authentic expression is. So it's almost like you are like a herd. बस सिस्टम में घुस गए, मैक्सिमम मार्क्स लाना है, अचीव करना है, मेरे बाजू वाले से ज़्यादा अच्छा करना है, परफॉर्म करना है, बड़ी डिग्री लेनी है, बड़े इंस्टीट्यूशन में जाना है, अच्छी जॉब चाहिए, अच्छा पैकेज चाहिए. बस एक सिस्टम में घुस गए बस. और फिर मेरी इंडिविजुअलिटी क्या है, मेरे को किस चीज से जॉय मिलता है, किस चीज से मैं खुश रहता हूँ, वो सब दैट गोज रियली आउट ऑफ द विंडो है. सो देन हमारा जो मेंटल टर्मोइल है, इतना दुनिया में एडिक्शन है, दुनिया में इतना डिप्रेशन है, दुनिया में इतना मेंटल ब्रेकडाउन है, इतना स्ट्रेस है, वो दैट्स बिकॉज वी आर नॉट अलाइंड टू आवर नेचुरलनेस. So, and then we fill our emptiness with addictive behavior, alcohol, food, different kinds of addictive patterns of behavior. And that's how it all gets started. But so essentially the start of it is childhood. And now, of course, there's a lot of talk about childhood trauma. And
Yeah.
one of the things that Compassionate Inquiry talks about is childhood trauma and how it affects us.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how it is. That's how we fill our emptiness.
Yeah. I want to share something कि जैसे अजय ने अभी बोला कि एम्प्टीनेस क्यों आता है. He has given those एग्जाम्पल्स. जो भी ये बुक रीड कर रहे हैं ना, मैं उनको जरूर बोलना चाहूंगी कि the experience that he has shared, ये पढ़ें आप लोग ज़रूर, और पढ़ के आप समझें ज़रूर, आपका कहीं न कहीं आपका रास्ता खुलेगा। आई मीन, आई कैन श्योरली से दैट, because it is not out of any pride. This book is not about attitude. This book is not about arrogance. This book is not about uh, any. This book is not very strong, I would say. This book is very emotional. It's a very emotional book, and आप पढ़ेंगे जब, आपको बहुत अच्छा लगेगा. You will get a chance to meet with yourself while reading, and you will relate to so many things. Like बहुत सारे stories हैं इसमें, बहुत अच्छे से. वो garden वाला जो story है, that person, you know, he was like, no, मेरे garden में कोई नहीं आ सकता, तो उसके garden में कुछ हुआ ही नहीं actually. Then he realized कि वो किसमें सर्विस में है शायद ना, किसमें था वो? Is it in chapter 4?
सर्विस में है वो.
Chapter 4 ना? हाँ, services.
करेक्ट.
या सो वो स्टोरीज जो छोटे-छोटे उसमें हैं, वो भी बहुत अच्छे लगेंगे पढ़ने के लिए, बिकॉज़ दे आर ऑल वेरी सिंपल स्टोरीज, यू नो, इट्स नॉट कॉम्प्लिकेटेड. तो पढ़ के समझ में आने जैसा स्टोरीज है उसमें. और भी मैं ज़रूर बोलना चाहूँगी, दिस बुक इज़ नॉट confined to a age group, which is really nice. Like a youth can also read this book. An adult can read this book. A woman can read this book. Men, gender. It's a very wholesome book. मुझे तो पढ़ के ऐसा लगा कि it's not confined. It is very wide and open. Like मुझे कहीं भी स्टक नहीं लगा ये बुक पढ़ने में. बहुत अच्छा लगा पढ़ना. मैं और बोलो.
नहीं, मेरे को भी काफ़ी यही फीडबैक मिलता है कि दैट इट्स अ वेरी सिंपल बुक, और कि इट्स वेरी एंगेजिंग. यू वांट टू टर्न द पेज एंड सी व्हाट्स नेक्स्ट. देयर आर स्टोरीज, देयर इज पर्सनल शेयरिंग, देयर आर यू नो. तो I think one of the gifts that I have is I'm able to make very profound and so-called heavy spiritual concepts simple.
Yes.
And I feel जो simple या सादगी से बोली जा सकती है in an interesting way, then that's so much more better than giving it like wisdom or gyan or some, you know, heavy stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's not really what is needed. और दूसरा मैं ये भी कहना चाहूँगा कि जब मैंने शुरू किया था लिखना ये किताब, तब मैं अपनी लाइफ के बारे में नहीं लिख रहा था. तब मैं बस वो 7 प्रिंसिपल्स थे उनके बारे में लिखना था, और वो क्या प्रिंसिपल्स हैं. और जब मैं एलिमिनेट चैप्टर पे आया जो एडिक्शन के बारे में है, तब मैं ये सोच रहा था कि इस चैप्टर में मैं क्या लिखूंगा, क्योंकि मुझे पता नहीं था मैं अपनी एडिक्टिव बिहेवियर के बारे में लिखूंगा कि नहीं लिखूंगा. और क्योंकि देयर वाज सो मच शेम एसोसिएटेड विद माय एडिक्टिव बिहेवियर, which is around, which I have written in the book, which is around the sexual impulse. My addiction has been around pornography, has been around masturbation, um, this need to be wanted by somebody. So though that has been, or फिर especially you know, लोग फूड एडिक्शन के बारे में बात करते हैं, अल्कोहल एडिक्शन के बारे में बात करते हैं, गैम्बलिंग, बट इस टॉपिक के बारे में हार्डली मैंने कहीं देखा है किसी ने बात करी है कभी. तो क्योंकि ये बहुत ही, एक तो एडिक्शन पे बहुत शेम है, ऊपर से एनीथिंग टू डू विद योर सेक्सुअल इम्पल्स तो और डबल शेम है. तो मुझे ये नहीं पता था कि मैं इसके बारे में लिखूंगा नहीं लिखूंगा, क्योंकि अब मैं बात कर सकता हूँ इसके बारे में, बट एक टाइम में इट वाज सो मच, मतलब मैं कैसे दुनिया को अपने बारे में ऐसी बात बताऊंगा. सो बट व्हेन आई केम टू दैट चैप्टर, तब मेरे को लगा कि वो जो जिस एनर्जी से मैं लिख रहा था, जिस व्हाटएवर इट सेड दैट आई नीड टू मेक अ फुल सेल्फ डिस्क्लोजर, एंड और फिर मैंने लिखा जो भी लिखा. फिर मुझे ऐसा लगा कि मेरे को आई हैव टू गो एंड री राइट द बुक। स्टार्टिंग में मैंने वापस से वो जो फर्स्ट चैप्टर है वापस से लिखा, मैंने अपनी लाइफ के बारे में बताया, फर्स्ट चैप्टर विच इज़ अराउंड 4,000 वर्ड्स। मेरे चाइल्डहुड के बारे में बताया, मेरे डिफ़िकल्टीज़ चैलेंजेस के बारे में बताया, मेरी फैमिली के बारे में बताया, मेरी एडिक्टिव बिहेवियर के बारे में बताया। सो जो भी खुल के मेरे को बोलना था मैंने बता दिया। क्योंकि मुझे लगता है कि लोग जो कनेक्ट करते हैं वो तुम्हारे ज्ञान से कनेक्ट नहीं करते हैं, वो तुम्हारी ऑनेस्टी से कनेक्ट करते हैं। तो अगर तुम ऑनेस्ट हो, वल्नरेबल हो, तो कहीं ना कहीं दूसरे को छू जाएगा, क्योंकि तुम जिस स्पेस से लिख रहे हो वो बहुत ही प्योर और ऑनेस्ट है और लोग सेंस कर सकते हैं। So I think then the book का nature changed from it becoming preachy to being very, it's like sharing then really. So it's a book which is very authentic. It's about my personal life and personal experiences, but it also has stories. It also has a weaving of yoga philosophy. So it's really a interesting book to read. मैं अब खुद ऑथर होके मैं बोलूँगा तो मे बी लोग नहीं बिलीव करेंगे, बट आई थिंक इट्स अ नाइस सिंपल इजी रीड। ज़्यादा मोटी भी नहीं है किताब, विच आई एम गुड, which is good. It's
That's right.
easy to read और आई थिंक तुमने 2 दिन में पढ़ डाली तो मीन्स दैट शुड
Yeah, that's true. मैं बोलना चाहूँगी, मुझे when you were sharing about your addiction and I think somewhere that sharing opened your heart and that was where your energy transcended. मुझे वही लग रहा है कि when you are
हाँ बिल्कुल। मतलब ये बहुत ही शेमफुल पार्ट ऑफ माय लाइफ था, मतलब द मोस्ट हिडन पार्ट ऑफ माय लाइफ, क्योंकि ये एक्टिविटी हिडन है तो इसके बारे में बोलना तो दूर की बात है। बट जब मेरे को रियलाइज हुआ कि ये मेरा एडिक्टिव बिहेवियर है, तो सबसे पहले तो आई टुक स्टेप्स टू विच इज वेयर आई वाज टॉकिंग अबाउट वाइट बोर्ड पर्पस, क्योंकि अगर आपका दिमाग कोई पर्पस डायरेक्शन में नहीं जाएगा तो आपका वो फिर दूसरे डायरेक्शन में जाएगा, और वो उस डायरेक्शन में इतना घुस चुका है वो दिमाग की, वो एक इम्पल्स है, वो कंट्रोल नहीं होती है। जो जो एडिक्शन से सफर करते हैं लोग, उनको ही पता है कि व्हाट दैट पेन एंड सफरिंग इज। वो एडिक्शन इज एक्चुअली, अगर मैं बोलूं तो रियली इट्स सेल्फ मेडिकेशन। वो एक एक तरह का कि एक इट्स रॉन्ग मेडिकेशन, बट इट इज मेडिकेशन, क्योंकि तुम्हारा इमोशनल पेन है उसको तुम कुछ ना कुछ उसको
सूद
यू
करने
वांट टू रिड्यूस, सूद करने के लिए, तो तुम सूद करने के लिए या तो शॉपिंग जाओगे, या तो चॉकलेट केक खाओगे, या तुम कुछ करोगे। वो यू आर जस्ट लुकिंग फॉर दैट टेम्पररी फिक्स टू फिल यू, बट ये है कि वो होल बड़ा ही बड़ा बड़ा होता जाएगा, वो एंड नहीं है, और फिर तुम उससे बाहर भी नहीं निकल पाओगे। सो दैट्स व्हाट एडिक्शन इज ऑल अबाउट। So when you realize that you want to make change, you it's like climbing Mount Everest, क्योंकि तुमने जिंदगी भर वो एडिक्टिव पैटर्न और बिहेवियर करते गए, वो तुम्हारे ब्रेन में कोई एक बहुत ही डीप न्यूरल पाथवे सेट हो गया है, तो इतना आसान नहीं है वो बदली करना। सो अनलेस यू डोंट हैव समथिंग दैट इंस्पायर्स यू, समथिंग दैट पर्पस, then you can start creating a new neural pathway। और मैं अभी भी कहता हूँ कि ऐसा नहीं है कि मैं एकदम आई एम फ्री ऑफ माय एडिक्टिव बिहेवियर, वो पाथवे है कहीं, बट सिर्फ ये है कि वो अभी डॉर्मेंट हो गया है, क्योंकि मैं अब दूसरे डायरेक्शन में अपनी एनर्जी चैनलाइज करने लगा हूँ। बट अगर उसको मैं जरा सा भी नरिशमेंट दूँ ना, तो वापस से उसको रिज्यूम होने में बिल्कुल भी टाइम नहीं लगेगा। सो इसके लिए एडिक्ट, it's I think ये किताब ना, anyone who is I think has struggling with addiction should read it, but more than addiction I think this book is actually ना, हर कोई हम addicted हैं, ये सिर्फ ये है कि हम ना रियलाइज नहीं करते, क्योंकि हमारा जो एडिक्शन है दैट्स विद इन सोशली एक्सेप्टेबल नॉर्म्स। चाहे आप फोन को कंपल्सिवली देख रहे हो बार बार, या तुम यू आर एडिक्टेड टू योर वर्क, और यू आर एडिक्टेड टू रिलेशनशिप्स, किसी भी चीज को, एडिक्शन का क्या डेफिनेशन है, एक क्रेविंग है जो तुम्हें टेम्पररी रिलीफ देती है, और वो नेसेसरली तुम्हारे लिए अच्छा नहीं है इन द लॉन्ग रन, और तुम उसे रोक नहीं सकते। अगर ये चीजें हैं तो देन इट्स, सो अगर हम देखें हमारी लाइफ, ऐसा कौन है जो जिसके पास ये कंपल्सिव बिहेवियर्स नहीं है, हम कुछ ना कुछ जो भी करते हैं, दैट इज, सो आई थिंक फर्स्ट एंड फॉरमोस्ट वन हैज टू रियलाइज कि हम यूजुअली सोचते हैं एडिक्शन इज बेसिकली कोई अल्कोहल पी के जमीन पर गिरा हुआ है या कोई ड्रग एडिक्ट है. That's not, in fact, मैं आज सवेरे, let me give you a very good example. I was taking a walk in my garden in my building complex. तो वहां पर ना एक मोटे से हेल्दी अंकल हैं, मे बी 60+ और समथिंग. मैं सिटिंग ऑन अ बेंच, और जब भी मैं उनको देखता हूँ ना, तो वो बस 24 घंटे फोन पे वो कुछ न्यूज या कुछ गुजराती में है, वो बस देख मतलब whenever I see him with the phone. It is not possible to for me. And I realize nobody will say that this is addictive behavior. He himself will not realize because he's just looking at the phone and he's constantly just looking at the news. That is an addictive behavior. So इतना वाइड स्प्रेड है ये एडिक्टिव बिहेवियर कि हम इसको नॉर्मलाइज कर दिया है. अगर मैं अपनी एडिक्शन के बारे में बोलूं, पोर्नोग्राफी, हर कोई पोर्नोग्राफी, मोस्टली people, pornography, seeing pornography is supposed to be a normal thing. um, और रिलेशनशिप्स, दुनिया भर के डेटिंग एप्स हैं अभी, वो एक अलग एडिक्टिव बिहेवियर है. काम, the people who are workaholics who can't stop working, their life is only about their work. So एक कोट है by this Indian philosopher जिसका नाम है जिद्दू कृष्णमूर्ति. उसने कहा था कि to be well adjusted in a sick society is not a sign of good health. तो हम ऐसा है कि हमारा ह्यूमैनिटी इतना that I'm reminded of Gabor Mate's book The Myth of Normal, कि abnormal नॉर्मल हो गया है. क्योंकि सब abnormal, इतना abnormality है हमारी लाइफ में, सोसाइटी में, कि abnormality नहीं लगती, क्योंकि it's part of the majority behavior. So this is a tragedy of our human life.
Yeah, that's true.
So the first thing is to realize that something is not quite right.
Not quite
And
right.
whatever is giving me instant gratification and pleasure is not really good for me. और वो realization तब होता है जब आपकी लाइफ ब्रेकडाउन होने लग पड़ती है. लाइक जब लोग काउंसलिंग के लिए आते हैं या थेरेपी के लिए आते हैं, तब वो या तो डिवोर्स हो रहा है या रिलेशनशिप, तब उनको रियलाइज होता है आई हैव टू नाउ सेल्फ रिफ्लेक्ट, क्या मेरे में प्रॉब्लम है. बट अदरवाइज वी सिंपली डोंट. जब तक लाइफ ब्रेकडाउन नहीं होती है, तब तक रियलाइज नहीं करते कि कुछ इनर प्रॉब्लम है.
What I understand from your sharing is like, I think addiction is a strong connection.
Is a strong connection.
Yes.
Yeah, it is a strong connection, and it's like I'm reminded of Dr. Gabor Maté's the way he describes it. He says it's a stupid friend.
Stupid friend, that's correct.
या ऐसे you can give an example कि बचपन में जो चीज तुम्हें survive करने के लिए दिया, whatever allowed you to survive, your addiction is nothing but your coping mechanism.
Yeah.
So you wore a warm coat to keep yourself warm. Addiction is, let's say, is your warm coat which to keep yourself warm because it was very cold when you were a child. बट एज एन अडल्ट अब तो सनशाइन आ गया है, पर वो तुम कोट हटा नहीं पा रहे हो क्योंकि वो तुम्हारे से चिपक गया है. वो नाउ इट्स बिकम as much a part of you, so you're not able to even remove that coat. So that is how addiction is. It helps you to survive, but it just keeps you in surviving mode. It will not allow you to thrive. So it is not in some ways it helped you, but it comes at a very big price.
Well, मैं और भी बोलना चाहूंगी कि तुम्हारा जो your addiction was a seed for you to realize जितना मतलब उतना डीप होना था एडिक्शन सो दैट यू कुड रियलाइज समडे कि बस हो गया बहुत।
हाँ, बिल्कुल सही। आई थिंक इन अ वे आई थिंक मुझे आई हैड टू एग्जॉस्ट दैट कर्मा, कि एक योगा में देर इज दिस टर्म भोग अपवर्ग। भोग अपवर्ग मीन्स या तो तुम योगा से सीखो या तो तुम भोग से सीखो। अपवर्ग
भुगतो
मीन्स
इसका मतलब
आउटग्रो।
भुगतो राइट?
आउटग्रो।
हाँ,
Bhog means consumption, consumptions.
कंजप्शन हाँ, हाँ, हाँ।
Consumption means whether you're consuming food, sex, life experience, relationships. ये जो भी हम fill करते हैं ना, emptiness जो हम fill करते हैं, it's a form of bhog. So it's upward means you grow from it. So बचपन में था कि we used to play with dolls. Now we no longer play with dolls. Then you move on to something else. Then adult life may adolescence may you are so preoccupied with the opposite sex, so then that becomes like your bhog at that time. Where you grow and then money becomes your bhog, you constantly want to make more and more money. So you learn to outgrow it, and also you realize कि then this is not really giving me joy and satisfaction. कितना भी मैं emptiness hole में डालूं, रिलेशनशिप डालूं, सेक्स डालूं, सेंसरी प्लेजर डालूं, मनी डालूं, वो होल कभी फिल नहीं होने वाला है।
भर नहीं रहा
मैं
है।
डालता ही रहूंगा, वो खाली खाली रहेगा। सो until we realize that in our essence, in our natural self, we are whole. That is WHOLE, and that we can only realize through spiritual path, through um, whatever path you may choose to, because it's a realization that we are not this person or the personality or conceptual self made up of past and future, but we are in our natural self, consciousness expressing itself in different forms. So when we realize that we are that consciousness that is expressing itself in different forms, then we realize that consciousness doesn't need anything to complete itself. It's full
हाँ,
itself. फिर वो जब फीलिंग और रियलाइजेशन आता है, फिर जो भी तुम करते हो वो आउट ऑफ फुलनेस करते हो, यू डोंट डू इट आउट ऑफ नीडीनेस। तब तक
वाओ!
जब तक हमारा एम्प्टीनेस है, वो जो हम करते हैं वो हम आउट ऑफ नीडीनेस करते हैं। बट व्हेन यू रियलाइज योर फुलनेस, then whatever you do it because it gives you joy. Yeah. It's and that's where thriving comes in. Yeah.
ब्यूटीफुल। Beautifully said, fullness and neediness. Fullness makes you more whole rather than falling into neediness.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Also, I want you to share something about once you realized that I want to come out of this, I want to change my patterns. Would you like to share something about the supporting environments that fell into place?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. uh, ये बहुत ज़रूरी है, सपोर्टिंग एनवायरनमेंट। मतलब मैं इसके बारे में तो मैं मतलब आई कांट टेल यू। सो इवन वंस यू रियलाइज कि ओके ये मेरा एडिक्टिव बिहेवियर है, ये मेरा प्रॉब्लम है, जो भी है, जब तक आपको ना एक कम्युनिटी नहीं मिलेगी जहाँ आप थ्राइव कर सकें, तो बहुत ही मुश्किल है अकेले निकल पाना इस दलदल से। सो वो एनवायरनमेंट सपोर्ट सिस्टम बहुत ही ज़रूरी है। वो अब कैसे मिलेगा? या तो आप खोजिए, या तो आप भगवान को प्रे कीजिए। फिर जब वो टाइम है ना, तो आपको अपने आप ही मिल जाएगी वो स्पिरिचुअल कम्युनिटी और द सपोर्टिव कम्युनिटी। सो मेरे को I was part of the Yoga Institute Bombay. I'm very grateful for those 5 years that I spent with them. It was extremely life transformative for me. और अगर शायद वो कम्युनिटी नहीं मिलती तो पता नहीं क्या होता फिर। बट आई थिंक मुझे लगता है कि ना देयर इज इंटेलिजेंस इन द यूनिवर्स एंड पीपल शुड ट्रस्ट द इंटेलिजेंस। और अगर अगर हम देखें तो कितना, आई मीन द होल यूनिवर्स इज फंक्शनिंग सो इंटेलिजेंटली। लुक एट द सनराइज, सनसेट, हाई टाइड, लो टाइड, सीजन्स, प्लांट्स, फूड, मतलब आवर ओन बॉडी, so many organs, ये हम खुद तो बना नहीं रहे हैं, हार्ट बीटिंग, लिवर, स्टमक, ये कोई तो एक इंटेलिजेंट फोर्स है ये जो लाइफ को क्रिएट कर रहा है, चला रहा है. So कहीं ना कहीं we have to learn to trust this intelligent force, and that's where I think the importance of prayer comes in, the importance of learning to surrender comes in, and then kahin na kahin I think the universe definitely supports you. uh, and also our suffering is also for us to make us realize ki what is really important on the path. क्योंकि जब तक हम सफर नहीं करेंगे तब तक हम सीखेंगे नहीं. जैसे कि योगा का first yoga sutra is Atha Yoga Anushasanam, which means now begins the discipline of yoga. So the word that they have used is Anushasan, which is not Shashan. Shashan is discipline. Anushasan is self-discipline. क्योंकि जब आप बच्चे को अगर माँ बाप बोलेंगे कि आग में उंगली मत डालो, हाँ जल जाओगे और वट एवर, तो बच्चा बोलेगा क्यों नहीं डालूं. हाँ, वो डर के वजह से नहीं डालेगा. शायद माँ बाप उनको पनिश करेंगे. सपोजिंग एक दिन अगर माँ बाप कहीं चले गए और बच्चा अकेला है और उसने उंगली डाली आग में, तो उस दिन के बाद वो कभी नहीं डालेगा, क्योंकि उसके कोई बोलने की जरूरत नहीं है. उसने एक्सपीरियंस कर लिया आग में उंगली डाल के क्या होता है. So I think suffering is like that. It makes you realize कि whatever gives you that temporary quick fix pleasure, it's not going to sustain, and it will only give you more and more suffering until you reach a point कि अब okay, now I need to do something about my life. Then you will go to a therapist, then you will read a book, then you will go to yoga, then you will try to bring more balance into your life. So I think it's just a natural part of growth. So har ek cheez, everything has its place. I think one has to lose themselves so that they can find themselves. If you don't lose yourself, then how can you find yourself?
इस पे मेरा एक और क्वेश्चन है, जैसे कि यू सेड कि यूनिवर्स इज इंटेलिजेंट. Yes, universe is intelligent, but how do you catch that? How do you access? What is your how you are
How do you catch?
available? How are you available to that intelligence? You know, how
Yeah.
do you know
So
that it
it's
is for you?
another good question. How do you connect to that intelligence? That's the question, right?
Yeah, I mean, जैसे कि you said the universe is intelligence. The universe understands what you need. That
Yeah.
is the part of the universe. But how do you, as a person, know that and access to that provide offering of the universe? Yeah.
So first is supposing if you are lost, तो सबसे पहले तो है कि have faith in somebody else. If somebody is telling you that there is intelligence in the universe, trust that. Maybe read this book so you will realize कि मरते मरते आदमी बच सकता है. और I think my book is is um, is a is a testimony to that intelligence. कि from a point where I want to end my life to suddenly my whole life changed, and how I went to an astrologer who made a prediction you'll become a spiritual teacher. And I don't know how life happens, but this is how it happens. So one is have faith and trust. If you don't have enough of your own, rely on somebody else's faith and trust. And the way to access that intelligence is to quieten your mind. जितना तुम्हारा ये दिमाग चल रहा है ना 24 घंटे, जैसे दे से यू हैव 60-80,000 थॉट्स अ डे, तो तुम ये दिस थिंकिंग माइंड इज कॉन्स्टेंटली थिंकिंग कि मैं क्या करूं, कैसे करूं, ये करूं, ये करूं, वो करूं. मतलब यू फील ना एवरीथिंग यू आर इन कंट्रोल. In reality, you are not. Your mind is creating an illusion of control, and you're thinking, I'm doing this, I have to do this, da, da, da. So only when you are able to quieten this chatter and you have this silent, spacious mind, then the universe will start expressing itself through you. And it's and that expression is more like a intuitive knowing. It is not a strategic thinking knowing कि इस चीज से मुझे ये फायदा होगा, उस चीज से ये होगा, इस चीज को ये करूंगा. वो यूनिवर्स ऐसे नहीं सोचता, यूनिवर्स सिंपली एक्सप्रेस करता है अपने आप को नेचुरली. इट्स अ वेरी स्पॉन्टेनियस, नेचुरल, होलसम एक्सप्रेशन. So um, so the practice is to quieten the mind, and then you can access that intelligence of the universe.
Wow, that's great. So I have another follow-up question. You shared like prayer, faith. If you don't have any faith, you try to reach out to someone whom you can trust, right? So if I ask you, like, how did you understood faith? How did you understood that you have to trust the process of the universe? How did it happen with you?
That's a good question. Maybe I should read from the book,
Okay.
because there is one portion where I call finding faith. So, okay, so here it
Page number.
goes, 172.
Mm, yeah.
So it's called Finding Faith. Among the many books that I've read, there is one book that I'm not proud of reading. It was a book on how to end life painlessly. When my grandmother passed away, I downloaded it on Kindle and started exploring the easiest way for me to make a final exit. I had thought about ending my life earlier too, but this time the pain was unbearable. This was the first time I started reading a book on it. I have ever imagined in those moments that I would one day live to write a book on how to live a happy life? Never, but here it is right in your hands, the culmination of my insights on how to live. No matter how difficult my life has been, it has been nothing short of a miracle, a benediction of the divine, the grace of God. When I was a child, my image of God was that of an old man with a white flowing beard, sitting up in a place called heaven. I guess my convent upbringing had something to do with it. My Hindu grandparents were not too pleased when I told them I resonated with Christianity. I also followed Hindu rituals and festivals. My grandmother, who was an extremely religious lady, had a small puja room and in an already small house dedicated entirely to the worship of God. In Hinduism, we have a luxury of choosing from 330 million gods and goddesses. The puja room at our home had big framed pictures of Ram, Krishna, Hanuman, Shiva, and Durga. A red, round bellied Ganesha sat right in the middle. Whenever something special was cooked, it was first offered to the deities before I could lay my hands on it. As a child, I wondered, what is the fuss about? Do these gods really exist? Do they really eat when a halwa is offered to their pictures? Are these stories just products of human imagination? Of course, no one gave me any satisfactory answer. My prayers to God were mechanical, and I would stand with my eyes closed and my hands joined in prayer, more to please my grandmother than out of any conviction that God exists. My relationship with God became deeper when I lost faith in Him altogether. So I think the way to find faith is pehle usko, when you lose it completely, then you will realize the value of faith. When I felt cheated and betrayed, I not only lost faith in God, but in human relationships. I felt that if there really was a God, then innocent people wouldn't suffer, and moreover, there would be one story about Him. The Christians have their story, the Hindus their story, and the Muslim theirs. Which story is real? And if they are all stories and the reality of life is pain and suffering, why waste my time on such a God? Why follow any spiritual or religious values? I would rather do what my heart desires. I lived a godless life for the next few years. It was liberating not to be bound by any authority. And what bigger authority to dismiss than the idea of God? But when my godless life finally led me to the psychiatrist and to the edge of ending my life, I blamed God for all the suffering He had packed into my life. I remember saying, God, even though I do not believe in you, I'm angry with you. That was the first honest conversation I had with God. That is when my life changed miraculously. Life suddenly brought me to the Yoga Institute. God also started making a reappearance in my life in the form of my tabletop worship altar, weekend visits to the temple. All that I questioned others over, I started doing. I no longer saw myself different from other humans who worshipped God. I was one of them. I could see my grandmother smiling at me from above while I stood in line at the temple, humbly awaiting my turn to offer my prayers to Mr. God. I believe in order to have a real relationship with God, or whatever name one would like to give this mysterious entity, one needs to experience vulnerability. Not just any kind of vulnerability, but a kind that brings you down to your knees in total surrender. You took my family, you took everything, I surrender. What more do you want? Yelled Pi into the sky with his hands outstretched as he stood at the edge of the boat that was being ravaged in a violent storm. When we have surrendered, there is nothing to lose. For someone who wanted to end his life, every single day alive is a bonus. We truly value life when we come to the brink of losing it. The guy up there wants us to come to him naked and raw as the day we were born. Until we are ready to do that, he waits patiently while we play our mind games. So, it is not that my life has been a fairy tale after realizing the wisdom of yoga. I continue to grapple with my inner demons, except that I'm more aware of them. I realize no matter how strongly I feel that the fault lies with the other person, that the cause of my turmoil is only me, no one else but me. All I can do is follow my daily practices so that these demons do not devour me completely and I keep my energy channelized in the direction of my Swadharma. But most of all, I have realized that I'm helpless. Without the grace of a higher power, there is little I can truly do, which is not to say that I become passive and give up. I continue doing my duty, knowing fully well the results of my actions are not in my hands. Without doing my part in life's drama, there is very little any God can do for me. Trust in Allah, but tie your camel, says an ancient Arabic phrase. So that's my journey of finding faith. And I think the best way to find faith is to lose it and lose it completely. So then you realize the value of faith.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. So the conversation needs to be honest, right? गुस्सा आ रहा है तो गुस्सा करो. Complain. Why is my life like this? What do you want from me?
Yeah. It's like then you really start having a real intense conversation. Like otherwise you're going to the temple and you're doing your rituals and you're doing
Yeah.
this like when you're thinking about your abhi main ghar mein khane mein kya banaya and all that. That's not a relationship with God. It's like just a mechanical process that you're doing. हाँ, जब इतना लाइफ की बैंड बज जाती है ना देन वो दिल से जो निकलती है ना आवाज की क्या हो रहा है तो फिर it reaches somewhere. I think that's really an honest conversation with God.
Yeah, yeah. Mr. God.
Yeah, Mr. God, yeah, Miss God, your whatever name for me they want to give it. Which I then which also coming comes to that is that it's good to have some name, some form, something that you have because that's what the mind also needs. So for me, during this time, I was really devoted to Krishna. So Krishna was my. I had a picture of Krishna in my home. I would offer food to Krishna. I would cover Krishna when it was cold. I would leave the fan open sometimes when it was summer.
Wow.
So for me, it was like Krishna was there in my home. When I came home, I didn't come to an empty house. Krishna was there. So these are just ways of, you know, कोई बोलेगा कि ये पागलपन है, but असली पागलपन तो ये जो तुम्हारे दिमाग में जो चल रहा है 24 घंटे विदाउट योर परमिशन वो पागलपन है. But these are
Mm.
ways to cultivate devotion in your life, to cultivate surrender in your life, to recognize a higher power, a higher reality, which is making this universe function. So, so hence it is necessary, whatever deity you believe in, whatever path you believe in, it's not necessary that you choose Krishna. You can choose whatever you want, but it's you have to create a connection with the divine. I think that's बहुत ही जरूरी है.
So I want to really say कि the way you have expressed your faith visually, you know, when you come home, you see Krishna at your home and you feel like you are not alone, like leaving the fan on, like taking care. So
Yeah,
you really felt faith presence of faith, you know.
yeah.
ब्यूटीफुल अगर आप लोग सुन रहे हैं तो ज़रूर सुनिए। आप किसी भी तरीके से फेथ को देख सकते हैं। जस्ट द वे अजय हैज़ एक्सप्लेन्ड यू नो लाइक इट्स लाइक
Yeah.
कनेक्टिंग टू ह्यूमन बीइंग बट इट्स इन अ डिफरेंट form, you know, like that was his calling. So that's where the faith seeded in his heart.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. और वो फेथ हो सकता है कि it will take different shape, different direction as you grow, and
Yeah.
that's perfectly. But वो जो feeling होता है ना कि कैसे मैं बताऊं उसको, like a deep feeling of love towards something which is beyond anything one can ever imagine. You know, that's what I'm talking about. A deep feeling of um, right now I'm very influenced because of my Amritsar trip with the Sikh religion and Guru Nanak and his mool mantra, Ek Onkar, uh,
Satnam.
Satnam, Karta Purak, Nirbhav, Nirvair, Akal Murat, Ajuni Sebang, Guru Prasad Jap, uh, Ad Sach, Jugad Sach, Hai Bhi Sach, Nanak Ho Se Bhi Sach, which basically is essentially saying there is only one reality. That one reality is the truth. If that is who we really are, not this body and mind and this separate personality with which we have created. I was born at so and so time and then I will die at a certain time. It's that one reality which is expressing itself in so many shapes and forms, and that one reality is doing everything. We believe I'm doing something, but what can we do if our heart wasn't pumping? What can we do if our breath was not going on? What can we can't really do anything, but हमने लगता है कि सब हम कर रहे हैं. That one reality is the Karta Purak which is doing everything, and it's a eternal reality. It didn't start when we were born. It has always been there. There's never a time that consciousness or whatever name you may want to give that, you can call it God, you can call it whatever name, that's never, it's always there. It has always been there. In fact, the only thing constant that is there in our life is the fact that we exist. Everything else changes, but you can never say in your life, I never existed. Your body has changed, your mind has changed, your belief has changed, your relationships have changed, everything was changing. But the fact that I exist, I am, that never changes. That is Sat Nam, which is I am. And it has no fear, it has no animosity towards anyone. It is eternal, it is self-illumined. When you get in touch with that reality, then you are not lacking in anything. You feel that sense of completion within you, and it can be realized through the practice of remembering God. Whether you practice meditation, whether you practice chanting, whether you, some spiritual practices, I think very very important and very very necessary. So that's given. Yeah.
Beautiful. Uh, इतना अच्छा से you have expressed that मुझे इतना समझ में आया कि faith was pouring love inside you, you know, with faith,
Yeah,
uh,
true.
your
It's like,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. You are. It's like you are sucking the nectar of love through the faith you are creating inside of you. That's how it is.
beautiful, beautiful. I have one more question. You know, this
Hmm.
word that you have used, since I have read your book, I understood that you always had a fascination or inclination towards English literature.
Hmm.
So you have collect. You used to collect quotes and so many other things as a child. And I found
Yeah.
this word. 3 मिनट लगे मुझे ये word pronounce करने में. ये जो
Hmm.
है, this is a German word that you have used for damage joy.
Yeah. Schadenfreude क्या है वो उसको बोलते हैं?
तुम बोलोगे, तुमने लिखा है. मुझे तो 3 मिनट लगा, मैंने कहा क्या वर्ड है ये. और
वो
मैं तो
इंग्लिश वो कौन से पेज पे है वो?
103.
103. It's a German word. It's not an
uh,
English word.
it's a German word,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, it's called Schadenfreude. I hope I've got the pronunciation right. So, yeah. So, what about it?
तो ये वर्ड कहाँ से तुमको हुआ? हाउ डिड यू रीच टू दिस वर्ड? दैट वाज माय क्वेश्चन. पूरा
How
बुक में मुझे
I think through, I think maybe in somewhere I must have come across this word, and which is a very interesting word, which is Schadenfreude का मतलब क्या है? पता चला क्या मतलब है इसका?
डैमेज जॉय लिखा है.
हाँ, but मतलब क्या है? Give an example.
वो तो तुम बोलोगे.
वो भी तो किताब में लिखा हुआ है ना?
नहीं नहीं, तुम बोलो ना.
It bas- it basically means जब हम कोई और uh, is not is not doing well तो उसका हम failure देख के हमें खुशी मिलती है. So that is called damage joy or Schadenfreude. और I have used it in the context of my school कि मैं जब भी किसी और से I'm doing better than someone and someone is losing, so I'm feeling good because I'm winning. So that's Schadenfreude. And I'm getting the joy that because someone else is losing or someone else is not doing so well as I'm doing, so then I feel joyful.
और ये सर्विस में ही है ये वाला, राइट? चैप्टर 4 में है.
Hmm.
और फिर यहाँ पे मैंने तुम्हारे में शिफ्ट भी देखा है. When you went
क्या?
for shopping and you bought sweets for everyone.
Yeah, I think that was like my first experience of suddenly, like I was in a boarding school, and then we used to have holidays every alternate. We used to have every Sunday holiday, but every alternate Sunday we would go to the town. And one of the times when there was Diwali, and suddenly पता नहीं मेरे दिमाग में क्या आया कि सबके लिए मिठाई खरीदनी चाहिए, और सब मेरा जो लिमिटेड पॉकेट मनी था उसमें से then I started buying sweets for everybody, teachers, students वगैरह. और फिर पता नहीं मुझे फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम इन माय लाइफ मुझे बहुत खुशी मिली कि मैं लोगों के लिए कुछ कर रहा हूँ, और अंटिल देन कुछ भी मैंने ऐसा नहीं किया था.
So that was
It's
really
like,
nice. That was a good realization.
yeah, I think I just feel kind of sad, and it's unfortunate कि ना हम बच्चों पे इतना थोपते हैं unnecessary stuff कि ना हम उनका बचपन उनसे छीन लेते हैं. It's like so sad and it's so unfortunate that and it's like nobody is really to blame because the adults are nothing but wounded children of yesterday. तो वो लोग अपनी इनसिक्योरिटीज, फियर्स और उनके जो कोपिंग मैकेनिज्म है वो अपने बच्चों पे थोपते हैं. फिर वो जब अडल्ट होंगे दे बिकम द वुंडेड चिल्ड्रन, एंड देन इट्स लाइक अ it's generation after generation after generation after generation, trauma and coping skills are. अगर मैं अपनी लाइफ के बारे में बोलूं तो जो मेरा एडिक्टिव पैटर्न ऑफ बिहेवियर है ये मेरे फादर में भी था. ये उनका कोपिंग मैकेनिज्म रहा है जो मैंने कहीं ना कहीं जेनेटिकली जनरेशनली इनहेरिट कर लिया है. और मुझे तो मालूम नहीं मेरे फादर के फादर के फादर का आगे क्या लिनिएज में क्या हुआ होगा और जनरेशन्स में, बट कहीं ना कहीं ये वो जनरेशन से आ रहा है. अगर मैं अपनी मदर्स की साइड में देखूं तो उनका कोपिंग मैकेनिज्म is co-dependence, which is emotional dependence, emotional weakness, seeking sympathy. वो एक तरीका का अलग कोपिंग मैकेनिज्म है मेरे में. तो ये जो जनरेशन से पास होते आ रहा है, ये ट्रॉमा और कोपिंग मैकेनिज्म, और बच्चे लेते जा रहे हैं अपने पेरेंट्स से, और कहीं ना कहीं तो रियली स्पीकिंग ना किसी की भी गलती नहीं है, ये सिस्टम ही ऐसा है। बट wound तुम्हारा is not your responsibility. It's unfortunate that we get wounded, but the healing is our responsibility. क्योंकि आखिर में you can't say मेरे पेरेंट्स ने ये किया, मेरे बचपन में ये हुआ। कहीं ना कहीं you have to take responsibility, and I think if you heal yourself, then you're also doing a big favor to your generation and your family and sisters. And I just feel that somewhere you're bringing happiness to your lineage when you're able to heal yourself and get access to true joy. So you're really doing a good service to your family.
Great. It's really wonderful. So एक पर्सन के अवेकन होने से कितने जनों के लाइफ में सुधार हो सकता है?
बिल्कुल, आई थिंक we try to bring a lot of change in life and bring a change in society and all of that, but I think जैसे महात्मा गांधी बनते हैं बोलते हैं ना, be the change you want to see. If you just become more conscious just by your own consciousness, some of that light will spread around you, uh, rather than trying too hard and I want to do bring massive change. क्योंकि often I feel a lot of misery in the world is because people are trying to make the world a better place without making themselves better first. Uh, and then because they are just enacting their trauma at a more, जो हमारे जो जैसे political leaders हैं या जो भी maybe business leaders हैं, there is a lot of trauma at that level also. वो जो trauma है that reflects in the wars that we are having. Uh, we are in the world, we are having 2 wars going on right now. So ये is nothing but when people have not really taken care of their own wounds and they move into positions of power, and that woundedness then reflects at a large scale level. So बहुत जरूरी है that we take care of our inner demons. और I think the सबसे courageous चीज है to learn to be vulnerable. Courage is not really fighting a war or whatever. Courage is fighting your own inner demon and learning to be vulnerable, and that requires a lot of courage. Because when we are not willing to be vulnerable, then we try to cover it up, and when we try to cover it up, then we try to blame the other person for our woundedness, pain, and then we get into fighting, and then we get into blaming and accusation, and all the conflict happens. Jabki I would say every emotional reaction is something to do with us, but we rarely take responsibility for it.
Beautiful, Ajay. It was beautiful talking to you. I want you to share something for today's generation, today's world, a message.
Message. I wish you're making me sound like some world leader or some celebrity, which I'm not.
No, no, no. Well,
uh,
if I can help you, if I can make you feel like that, I'm happy.
yeah, like only celebrity. What do you have a message for today's generation? What is the message you have?
Okay, before तुम सोचो, मैं बोलती हूँ. Before that, this book is a big message.
Yeah, yeah. This book is a big message. Yeah, true.
Yes, and
So
उनमें
my
से
message, हाँ,
बोलो
उनमें
बोलो
से क्या?
पहले बोलो.
So my message is basically that so I'll say what my hope is through this book. My hope is that people become more authentic and honest after reading this book. I think the first step towards transforming the world is transforming yourself, and the first step towards transforming yourself is becoming honest. And when you become really honest, then that means you have to be vulnerable. And there is simply no other way to transform yourself but through vulnerability. कोई है ही नहीं रास्ता. This is it. और vulnerable होना आसान नहीं है, बहुत मुश्किल है. वो ऐसे लगता है जैसे सब कपड़े निकाल रहे हो सबके सामने और तुम you are naked and you don't know it, and defenseless. But then that is really the way you can transform yourself. I think by writing this book, by talking about my shame and my addiction and my transformation journey, कितना कुछ इंटीग्रेट हो गया है मेरे में, जो मेरे को खुद को नहीं मालूम कैसे कैसे हो गया, बट हो गया है. So the first and foremost, I would say, is take responsibility for your own self. Don't blame other people. All the emotional triggers you have come from inside of you. Take responsibility for your own healing. Therapy is a good way. If you can find a good therapist, I offer some good therapy. You can reach out to me. So that is one thing I can offer. But examine yourself more deeply, understand yourself more deeply, get in touch with your emotions, get in touch with some memories, what happened in childhood, because then that's the only way you can free yourself. And then I think the next step is to also find a purpose in life, find where your joy is, where your inspiration is, because that is so precious. Nothing can give you, nothing is worth more. Don't focus on पैसे कितने मिलेंगे, recognition कितना होगा, fame मिलेगा कि नहीं. I think the focus has to be in what gives me joy, and everything else then comes associated around that. I think the focus has to be on, and I often say three things. The way to find your joy is doing that you lose time and space, doing that you feel energized, doing that comes naturally to you. So, though that's the area where your inspiration lies. And last but not the least, you recognize that there is a higher power, there is some mystical force which is running this universe, which has created this universe, and that mystical force is not separate from who you are, and connect to that mystical force through some practice, through whatever path you believe in. And I think that's very important to keep yourself grounded. So these are the three things that I would share.
Awesome. Amazing. बहुत ही अच्छा रहा मेरा experience with talking to you and getting to know you and laughing with you. Especially reading this book. And I'm really grateful for your time and presence. And thank you for making this happen. Thank you for making this happen.
Thank you, Mamina, and thank you for reaching out to me and wanting me to be part of your podcast, and taking the effort to get the book from India to US, which is where you're located, taking the effort to read the book, and then now do this. So really grateful, and I'm happy that through this podcast, at least it will reach a few more people who may be listening to this. So really grateful to you for that. And like I said, the book is available on Amazon worldwide, internationally. So no matter whichever part of the world you are in, you can buy the book on Amazon. You just have to Google Thrive Ajay Kalra, and I think it should come up. That should be enough. And then if anyone wants to reach out to me, they can reach out to me by email or Facebook. You can find me there. I also have a website, it's www.ajaykalra.com. So it's AJAYAKALRA.com. So you can reach out to me. So that's it. And thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajay. Thank you. Hopefully, we'll meet again.
Yes, hopefully soon with new adventure.
Yeah. And
Okay.
I wish you all the best for your course and for your new purpose and new,
Yeah.
what do you say? A new beginning.
New beginning. Yeah. I'm very happy with that. Yeah. Thank you so much. And all the best for to you also for completing the course. And hopefully, if you're in India sometime, maybe we'll meet. Or
Yeah,
I'm
hopefully.
if life
Yes.
gets me to, you know what, yeah, we can do a book reading over there somewhere.
Of course, we will. Yes, let's hope for that.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you, Mami. Bye. Bye. Bye.